Yeah, thank you very much for allowing me to attend. It's great to hear everyone speaking. Today I'm going to talk about the hybrid high street retail store, and it's an optimization method for retail store conversion to community use. So a little bit about me. I'm an architect, and now I'm now I'm an academic. I think I'm an academic anyway. And I started work early on in practice, so I've worked on some interesting practices. So I worked at Zardid for quite a while, whereas project architect for this, which is the Glasgow Transport Museum, and most recently I worked in London again for Glenn Howells as like the project architect for the Olympic Village. So that was a really interesting big project as well. So before starting academia, a lot of my work is practically based or practice based. Very much I'm a doer and a maker, less of a thinker, but I guess you can be the judge of that. And as well, I'm the head of architecture at Lancaster School of Architecture, which is a relatively new school, just hot off the press in the last year. So yes. But what I'm here to do today is talk about a paper that I submitted and which was accepted for this conference, and really it's about retail. So in terms of the UK, clearly you'll know that UK, but also globally, the pandemic hit and really impacted retail stores across the world. I think more significantly than that, though, it's been clear that for a while retail stores have physical retail stores or high street retail stores has slowly been being phased out effectively from the general retail offering. So this article, for example, I literally found just the other day from The Guardian. So Great Britain's high streets lose more than 17,500 chain store outlets in 2020. That's quite a lot. So the high streets really are kind of on the floor at the moment. And just to some background or context, so on the left there, what you can see is not just the pandemic, but previous to the pandemic, so 2000 to 2020, it has been rising. So this is online retail sales as a percentage of total on the left. So you can see online retail sales increasing, the blue kind of area. Obviously, 2020, the pandemic hit, spiked up, because everyone went online, no one could shop physically. And the interesting thing is, as things have kind of retail started to open, the percentages have remained quite high. So you see that little kind of upturn at the end on the blue graph. So it kind of seems to suggest that, is retail shopping here to stay, and are we seeing the slow demise of the high street? And obviously really important within that is the names of the players. So Amazon, it's probably not surprising to see their share price kind of interrelate to it. So that's the graph on the right. And it's gone up to something like 1.6 trillion. So UK high street is in kind of quite dire need of change and investment, and it's something that even the popular press have picked up on as well. So Daily Mail, Save Britain's High Streets. There's a big funding campaign for the government at the moment to support high streets, and about 50 town centres have received something like £2 billion in total. But you do start to wonder, well, hold on, is retail really about physical stores in the future, or is it really the Amazon online instantaneous, 24 hours, in some cases 6 hours, means of shopping? So in terms of related work, in terms of people who've written about it, there was an interesting article in 2017, which kind of framed the issue of high streets. So it looked into the demise of high streets, looked at all the kind of facts and figures about it, and stated that high streets should be distinctive rather than differentiated, give a rich mix of different offers, which will then draw more customers who will then become shoppers. So what it kind of concluded in is to state that you don't need lots of different shops. You just need a very distinctive, fresh, new offering. And if you give something to shoppers that is different or might kind of bring them in for another reason, they may well convert to shoppers and they may well help the future of retail. So on the basis of the pandemic, on the basis of this recommendation, my question was, well, can retail store layouts be converted quickly into community uses and then back again to the retail layouts in the same space or in the same shop to provide these different offers for the high street? So fundamentally is, how can retail stores be changed from retail shelving, retail layout quickly to a community use, say, like I don't know, mothers and babies session or a book club, and then have that converted back again quickly to retail, so that it can retain and become its previous retail offering. So we aligned ourselves with Age UK Wigan Borough, who are a charity, but they're also a retailer as well. We spoke to them at all different levels, and they're really interested in getting involved in the project because obviously they're impacted by the decline of the retail as well. So we looked at their shop, retail shop, which was quite an interesting area. And obviously our brief was to look at this and say to ourselves, right, if this is a retail store, how can we move it to a community store and then back again quite quickly? So looking at the layouts, what can we change in this layout? How can we alter it? And what we kind of decided on, thinking not just about this store, but about general retail stores, was that fundamentally the furniture design or the furniture design had to be adaptable and multi-adaptable to allow something to transfer or transition from retail to anything else, anything community. So we knew that we had this retail layout that we didn't quite know what it was yet. We had to design it. We knew that we had to put it to a community use. So we had to convert retail into different types of community use. And we also knew that after it was used for the community use, we'd have to put it back into retail so that profits could remain high. So, the shop could retain its profitability. What we didn't know was what these layouts looked like. And we didn't know what the furniture was. So the first thing really we had to do was go out to the public. So we set up our stall in front of the public and we said, right, what do you want? What do the public want in terms of retail offerings? Now, this was pre-pandemic, just pre-pandemic. So we were lucky and also unlucky at the same time, because it would have been great for the data to pick up that. But it was a really interesting consultation. I think we got 66 participants in total, which wasn't great, but it took 5 minutes to fit it, to do the survey. And it turns out that there are 6 preferences. So people who were shopping would like to see a retail store that could also be art and craft, could also be book club, could also be cooking club, could also be health club, could be mother and baby, and could be community as well. So we knew that it had to go from retail to those six things. So how do we get from retail to those 6 things? Well, this is where the kind of multi-objective generative approach to working out how to move one thing to another thing comes in. So my background, I suppose, in Grasshopper, Revit, so it's about generative software approaches. And in order to solve this problem of how do you get from one configuration of layout to another, I used a software called Grasshopper with Revit. And what that allows you to do is to find out all of the possible iterations of how you can move from one thing to another, i.e. from a retail layout to community layout, and then back again, and look to multi-objectively optimize that strategy. And kind of what that looks like in terms of my computer screen. Hopefully you're watching a video of this as I'm watching a video. If you're not watching a video and it's not moving, I'll try to explain verbally what it should be showing. It's showing how the
it is working.
Oh, good, great, good to know. So it's showing you how when you use these sliders to change optimization parameters, it alters the plan on the left there. So you'll see, length of shelving increasing and decreasing, the distance between the wall and shelving increasing and decreasing, space between aisles decreasing and increasing. So what you can then do is basically put those into an optimization kind of finding plugin, which will then find an optimization means of getting from, say, a retail layout to a community layout. And that's really basically what we did. But in order to get there, we obviously had to design the multi-adaptable furniture, which is this system here, which is patent pending, by the way, which was essential really to allowing us to move from one thing to another. So how do you move from retail, which is kind of shelves based mainly, to something like community, which is a seating area and a table area as well. So we had to come up with various ways and methods and methodologies to allow us to do that. And we came up with a really effective one, we think, which was this, which is a way of providing both interesting retail space, but can also convert to, say, a table and to chair system as well. So in terms of the method we used, I don't want to go into it too much, but we had to lead on the left-hand side with the multi-adaptable furniture design. So that came quite early. We obviously inputted, number one, the AutoCAD polyline input, and then it came into this grasshopper definition, which would then come up with iterations. It would multi-objectively optimize the layouts, and then the client and the designer would then select which is the preferable layout for us to go forward with. And then we would generate all the design drawings basically after that, and all the layout manuals, and then we test it as well. So just in terms of the kind of slight detail of what that means, the grasshopper model, and this is what the grasshopper model did, is basically identified the area of the store. It then generated the kind of area in which flexible space could occur. It then optimized the way in which the furniture could move around based on the requirements of the type of use. And then what happened is it would come up with options that then the client and the designer sat down, basically chose and said, right, this is the right, this is the optimal design for me. And really, in terms of the criteria, the really important one was time. So the optimization was what's the quickest way we can get from retail to the use and backwards. So that was the first priority. And the second priority was cost as well, probably unsurprisingly. So yeah, time and then cost. And that's kind of what we did. So then we kind of made up the plans, and we started to make it real. And we started to draw elevations to try to make this a real thing. And we started to plan it out. So this is the art and retail design. So you can kind of see in the background hung paintings. There's also a user manual as well. So we gave the staff user manuals. So if they were about to convert their retail store into arts and crafts space, they would convert this like IKEA manual and go through it and change the furniture and move things around. This is the books and retail. So it's like a book club, as a cooking school, why not? Health and well-being, mother and baby, and kind of general community as well. So this is the retail store layouts, and the idea is that multifunctional furniture changes into those kind of community layouts. And obviously we had to time it, so we had to test it. And what we did is we tested all these generated outputs or layouts from one thing to another. And so, for example, from retail to general community, it takes 2 people to make that conversion. It takes 45 minutes to convert it out, so from retail to community, and then it takes 40 minutes to revert it back to retail. So if you're thinking, on a Monday night after kind of 5 o'clock retail time, you wanted to convert it into community center, it would take you 45 minutes to do it. And then at the end of a 3-hour community session, it would take you 40 minutes to put it back, so 85 minutes in total. So although there was really positive kind of feedback in terms of the profitability, potential and the fact that it could really diversify the retail offering. There were some slight reservations about the time it took to change things back and forwards, but I suppose potentially it's not necessarily something you'd want to do every day, but it might be something you want to do, say, like on the weekends or every 3 or 4 days. So in terms of future work, I think a way to reduce the time even further would be to integrate the furniture system into the algorithm as well, so that one of the kind of weaknesses of the project, I think, was that the furniture system was created before the algorithm was created. And I think a really complex but an interesting piece of work might be to make the furniture system also part of the generative approach to layout as well. So one can alter the other. So it's not furniture first, then layout. It's kind of furniture and layouts kind of competing against one another at the same time. There's also obviously testing of the generative algorithm in other shopping retail cores as well. So obviously we've tested it with this one core, and the idea of the algorithm is that and the thing about generative software generally is that it's not just one thing. It can be generated for lots and lots of different iterations. So the next step as well is to test it against multiple other stores in the high street to see if this can be a viable means of refreshing and reviving the UK high street. And that's it. Thank you very much.